So Suzanne, this is literally the second time that we've done this. So we are figuring things out as we go. Oh, it looks like things are lighting up and streaming and words are
Okay.
coming through. Hot diggity. All right, folks, we are live. AI powered prompt engineering, a how to guide with CEO, AI author, prompt engineer, ex vet, all around badass, Suzanne Guzman.
Oh, thanks.
Suzanne, welcome to the show. Welcome to V Brown Bag. Super happy to have you on. We've heard that there's this thing. It might be a passing fad. It's called AI. We're not sure. It might be like go the way of the internet and computers. Just here one day, gone tomorrow. So we wanted to have a nice conversation with you on how to leverage ChatGPT, and we're very excited to have you on. Before we get into it, though, let's go through some show notes. Y'all know the rigmarole by this point. Get in on the conversation. If you are in the audience, feel free to at us in the YouTube live stream or the Twitch live stream. Me and Roger will be your humble servants answering questions for you, fielding them to the illustrious Mrs. Guzman, who has all the answers for us this evening.
Hopefully.
And obviously, as you can see, we are down. Pour one out for our fallen friends. Shala and Sean are both sick with the crud that has been devastating households far and wide this January. Suzanne, I just got over COVID. Roger, I think you got rocked too, didn't you? Didn't your family
I got
have?
robbed with a bug. Yeah.
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 Everybody's been getting destroyed. Roger, how you been? What have you been up to, man?
I've been good. Just welcoming 2024 in with a bang, trying to keep up with all the latest and greatest things. But I've been good. Thank you.
So I ran into Suzanne. We were when this was a while ago, wasn't it?
This was October?
Was it October? Man.
I feel like it was October.
Once the New Year's and the holidays happens, everything before then is just like a fugue. It's just like a big fuzzy schmear. We were at the Portsmouth Women in AI Tech Conference, and the folks on stage were talking about AI, as one would do at the AI Tech Conference. And they were going back and forth and saying something about how they had not yet met a prompt engineer out in the wild. And Suzanne, literally, she was in the audience and she raised her hand and she was like, "Actually, I'm a prompt engineer." And so, like it's a room full of 100 people. The attention of everybody just like zooms in on her and goes, "Oh, we have so many questions."
Yeah.
And so after the dust cleared and everything settled, I ran up to her afterwards and I was like, "I have to get you on the show." Mm-hmm. And so here we are.
Yeah, it's funny. It's really funny because even the speakers came up to me afterwards and they were like, "Oh, right. we need to chat. We want to get you. We just don't meet, because they're in tech, right? So they don't meet the me's and like you said, in the wild, right?" So,
right.
And I don't know too many. I know I have a lot of peers that kind of play or dabble, but to really like go full in and on with learning how to communicate, it's rigorous. So it's fun though.
Hey, Kathy, how are you doing? Welcome to the show. So before we get into it, you've written a book on AI, so you might know a thing or two. What's this book about? Plug your stuff.
So I'll kind of go through my story, but my book is called AI Empowered, and it's the non-techie business owner's guide to leveraging ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. And it basically takes a very simple approach how to use and utilize leverage AI to help you improve your operations when it comes to running a business, operating a business, and also sort of safeguarding your company in the AI realm. But as I think I had mentioned this before, by the time I published it, it was outdated. So I'm working on version 2. And then today, the whole world got flipped upside down, my whole world, because the GPT store is open and live, and it's like my birthday. And I haven't been excited. I haven't been this excited since OpenAI released last year. And I'm super excited for just what 2024 is going to bring in all of this. Every single day, something else is coming out new. And I don't mean on the technical side. I mean really on the consumer side, what we're able to use and what we're able to do. It's just changing every single day. And it's so exciting. And I'm excited to be a part of it for sure.
And how would somebody, if they were interested in your book, how would they get their hands on it?
So you can look for it on Amazon, and you can visit my website, led2leadconsulting.com or led-to-lead.com. They're there. I have different socials, and we can share my email address as well. But yeah,
let's not share your email address. Let's share your links to your books.
Perfect.
We don't know. We don't want this out in the wild.
Yes.
Or unless you do, then
I mean,
on.
So the beautiful thing about having it on Amazon is I can make changes all the time, and sort of upload those, and so which is pretty good. I just have to get to it. But I've been my dance card has been pretty full lately. People are excited and interested. So
yeah, especially today with the GPT releases.
Today is just another. Yeah, it's a holiday, honestly, for those in my small circle. Again. We're not
your small circle of AI aficionados. It's just a couple of you people.
But again, we're the non-techie gurus, right? Like we're the ones who show others and play with it so that others can easily play with it, right? You don't have to be a coder or a programmer, and we want to show that off, Right. So that's for us. I mean, I'm sure it's a wonderful day for technicians and all the coder, everything, I'm sure. But for me and my very small circle, and I mean very small circle of people who are into this, it's exciting. It really is. I timed out on GPT a few times today.
Did you really?
I did.
Even with the paid for account. Nice.
Yes, paid for account. Nice. Use it so much.
Ben is excited about it as well.
I use it so much. I have it on my phone, and I use it sort of in place of Google. A lot of times, because when you Google something, Google is just giving you a list of websites. But when you use AI to search for something, it's giving you the analysis, the synthesis, it's giving you the summary, it's giving you the bullet points, it's giving you all the information that you then don't have to look and find and compare and contrast, So I love it. Yes, I just have the one account. I'm actually contemplating opening a second account. Or along with the GPT store today, they also introduced Teams, which is a whole different ball game. Especially my peers and I are considering just getting into that model. It's like $5 more a month, but there's an open shared space for up to 150 people, so we can kind of geek out in our geeky ways. Yeah, it's cool. Exciting.
Nice. So, Roger, well, actually, you know what? Why don't we get into it? Because we've got a bit of information to get started with. So why don't I flip the script here, and you now have the power.
Okay. So, how-to guide for prompt engineering. I'm going to preface this by saying that I purposely want to put a disclaimer. I am not a coder, programmer, or image designer. Okay. So my focus is communication with the AI model, how to properly communicate with it to achieve the best prompt results. What I have found for people that are just starting to use AI large language models, for instance, they don't get what they want. And they're like, no, I don't want to do this. So that's where I want to help and kind of show people how to really improve their prompting with pretty simple steps. Okay. All right. So remember, the whole point of the large language models is so that the regular users can now interact with this amazing technology that's been around for a while. It's just that you needed to be a coder or a programmer or some sort of person behind the scenes to be able to use it. So what kind of changed everything was when OpenAI released ChatGPT last year and just opened the world to the rest of us. So it's pretty exciting. Okay, I'm still excited about it. All right. If you can't tell. All right. So we are going to, let me pull this up. I don't know if this is going to change my screen. I just need there we go. Okay. Am I still full screen, Chris? Because I can't see.
You are full screen. I see AI-powered prompt engineering, a how-to guide.
Perfect. Okay. So I think I told you most of my backstory, but for a living, I am a leadership and business coach, and I specialize in other than helping small business owners and entrepreneurs start, grow, and scale their business. I really do emphasize the use and leverage of AI when and where we can. I did write the book, which I told you about. I am an actual certified prompt engineer, which I get questions all the time about that. And I build custom GPTs in the OpenAI platform. Another reason why I'm excited, because I have my own GPTs out there, and I'm hoping that people have already started using them, which is cool. And I'm hoping that people use them more. A little bit about my backstory is I think my love for technology started back in 1998 when I was one of the first classes of IT when I joined the United States Navy. And the crisis was impending. That crisis was Y2K. They needed technicians. They needed them quick and fast, and they trained us. And that I don't know if you know, but being in IT back then, in order to install software, like it was Windows NT, it was that 22 disc set, and there was that 3.5-inch hard, that hard floppy disk that I don't remember what it was called, but it's 22 inches in a disc case like this, 22 of them that we would carry around for each and every computer. That doesn't even include all the software batches and updates. So that was about a year and a half of upgrading with the hopes that the world wouldn't end at midnight, December 31st, 1999. It didn't, as we all know, and everything went rather smoothly. But because of that, I did earn my Navy Achievement Medal in the Navy. And during that time, I found really that, so they recruited a bunch of us younger people to join, but they had to have a workforce. So there were a lot of people already in the military who had to change over to IT. And the rate that did that in the Navy, we call jobs rates. So the rate that did that was the radiomen. And radiomen, it made most sense because they dealt with, message traffic, securing messages, that kind of stuff. So it kind of made sense, but it also kind of didn't. There were a lot of those people that had a hard time learning the language and the lingo. And I found myself really in that training role. And I kind of stayed in that training role throughout the rest of my short Navy career. I got out in 2003. We were heading into the war in Iraq. I was a single mom. I didn't want to be overseas for 18 months. So I was like, you know what? I am in IT. I'll get out. Maybe I'll do that thing. But really, I wanted to finish my college degree and get into teaching. So I did that, got into workforce education, became a teacher, found myself in Cairo, Egypt, of all places, because I'm just an adventurer that way. And then I started teaching high school, 11th and 12th grade AP language and literature. I love language as a whole. But I soon found myself really more passionate about teaching the teachers and working on professional development, and all through that, how technology could help us. So during that time, what was really big was the smart boards and integrating smart boards into lesson plans. Now we can incorporate and make the lessons more engaging with the students. So I did that for a long time. I got invited to educational expos in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Spoke in front of a lot of teachers and educators about the classrooms of the future, that kind of stuff, what education and training would look like. I loved being technologically adjacent. So not really working in tech, but using tech to our advantage in whatever ways that we could. And so I lived in Egypt for quite a long time, doing all the professional development stuff. And life is surprising. And I went through both of the Egyptian revolutions, and it was after the second one that we decided, it's probably time to come back to the States. And then my career kind of shifted from professional development to leadership and management development, because I learned sort of those skills throughout that process, and started with a focus on business success, business improvement, business changes. So along those lines, I was able to take a company to go completely paperless, which took a while. Change is hard, especially when most of the staff is not on board with technological change. It's a little bit tough. And then just got into like really helping businesses grow. And I found my passion really in that arena. But when I think about all the things that are exciting, I mean, I think about the fact that I went from the cassette tape to the CD to the MP3 player, right? Then to streaming music. And then we went from VHS tape to DVD to, I remember being one of those people. I went to Blockbuster, but I was very excited when I went to Netflix, little kiosk, and I would get my little disc and I would mail it back, or they would ship it to me in the mail. Look at Netflix now, Or how about the first time first time we had a cell phone? How many people remember having to pay for minutes and having free nights and weekends, or the flip phone? Or what about getting me started on gaming? What about, how many people remember up, down, left, right, BA start, for Contra with a Nintendo NES. Look at gaming now. I mean, we have a VR set in our living room that it's just, it alters reality. So I've just been really excited about all that progression, and really, really lucky. So my son and my daughter would never know what it was like to have, a phone that had a 30-foot cord, or being excited when we got the cordless phones in the house, or we could have two and the answering machine was attached, right? I remember my mom would spend hours, literally hours, trying to get the perfect message on the answering machine. So it's nostalgic and it's fun, but we've just been able to go through so many changes. Let's look at, we used to have atlases and roadmaps, and then MapQuest was a thing, and we would print out all the directions and then we would try to read it. And then we went to the little GPS that you would plug into the car, cigarette lighter. And then now we have Google Maps. It's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So that keeps me excited about like AI. So last year when OpenAI released ChatGPT and just made this whole world available to the rest of us, I was just hooked from the beginning. So, and then I just find all the ways that we can make it better. So that was my little long backstory, but so let's get into actual prompting. Okay. Today, we're just going to really learn how to effectively communicate with AI, large language models, effectively write prompts for AI communication, and write effective prompts for AI image creation. So I would normally ask for a poll here. I don't think we can do it, but really think about how often you use large language models. The large language models, the most common ones or the most prominent ones right now, ChatGPT, of course, Claude, Microsoft Copilot, and Google Bard. I use it daily, multiple times a day. A lot of people are somewhere kind of in the middle. And, it's like that bell curve where you have at the very end, you have the rare runs, and most people are kind of in the middle. But mostly we use it for, personal use, emails, blogs, if we want to respond to a complaint, if I want to learn something, or I want to I would say Google something. I want to get information, right? That's how we use it. That's how it's typically used. But let's talk about some best practices. And the first best practice I want to talk about is, if you get nothing out of today's stream, this is the one thing I want you to walk away with. If I can teach you anything, it's that you need to communicate with large language models the same way you would communicate with another human. You wouldn't tell a human being, maybe somebody would, but typically we wouldn't tell a human being, go sit. We would ask it, please go take a seat, and I'll be with you in just a few minutes, right?
Actually, Roger says that all the time. He's like,
like I said, maybe there's some people out there, but honestly, if we can just, and I think it's just built into us with having to communicate with like Google and Siri and Alexa. You want to just kind of get to the nitty gritty and you leave out all the adjectives. We've been trained to do that for years, but AI really has been trained to understand your language and to understand our emotion and our knowledge. So we want to take that into account when we're communicating. The more adjectives we use, the better the better results we're going to get. And that goes into being specific. If you give it a vague request, you're going to get a vague response. If you ask it to write a poem, you're going to get some random poem. If you get more detailed, you get a better response. The other tip is you really want to guide AI and not dictate it. You don't want to put too much, because no offense to anyone, but AI is smarter than any individual person or group of people that I can think of. Okay, so you want to guide it to what you want, but you do not want to stop it. You don't want to stop it from being able to. Don't be offended. You shouldn't be. I mean, it was built on all human knowledge, and everything about it has all the genius that is humanity. So it's exciting. And then you really want to embrace iteration. So just like how we're communicating with people. So if you're trying to teach someone to do something, and they don't get it right the first time, you want to ask them to do it again. You want to ask them to make changes. The same goes with these large language models. The same really goes. If it's not done right, ask it to do it again, and you'll get better response. You'll get better results for sure. And then you do want to use boundaries. So if you don't want it to do a certain thing, tell it not to do a certain thing. One of the examples I like to use is, if you ask it to write a short kid's story, but you don't want it to mention anything about pets because your niece or nephew just lost their dog, you can set those boundaries so that it doesn't include anything like that. And then you always want to ask it to ask you clarifying questions. So just as human beings, sometimes when we communicate, our context doesn't get across, or a point doesn't actually get made very clearly. So when you're asking AI to do something, make sure to ask it to ask you clarifying questions. So an example I like to use is I'll ask it to do something and I'll say, please ask me any questions you need to complete this task. It's a good practice. And then finally, and this is really, really important, and this I can't stress enough because I see it all the time. And because I've used it so much, I can tell, like, just off the top when something is written by AI and nothing has changed. You want to use it as a source and not a fact. We do want to remember that all of these large language models, all of their information and knowledge base has been built on human knowledge, human works of art, and human facts and human emotions, because everything we create comes from our emotions. So sometimes that AI model, depending on what you're looking for, has some unintentional bias, and you just want to be careful for that and remember that. Okay. Do we have any questions before we move on?
No. Ben was reflecting. Ben in the audience. It's appropriate to feel humbled by AI.
Yes.
And it is interesting. I mean, it's
humbling, slightly concerning. I mean, there's a lot of emotions tied up in AI as it currently stands.
Not just because it is the depth and breadth of human knowledge,
But also there's
the fear that is coming for our jobs.
there is the implication of these resources that they've been trained on that are copyrighted. And when you now say, please write me a book in the tone of Stephen King,
It knows how to do that because
it read all the Stephen King books.
Right.
So there's a lot of emotions around us, which is why it's such a hot topic right now.
Right. But it is, and I get that, and I have those feelings too, but I'll also say, if you were to get you could get the same information from Google, and you would just have to summarize that and analyze that yourself, and then you could then write like Shakespeare too. So it's all of our human knowledge is available. It's just that AI currently makes it easier for us as a single human to access. That's the only point.
we just don't need a million monkeys in a million years anymore.
Exactly. You don't need exactly. So what I tell people is that, so again, I communicate with it like it is another human because it was built on human knowledge and emotion. But I also understand that it is AI. It's not a real human. But I think it's one of those things where you can embrace it. I've also, as I talked about how I've lived through all this technology, I've also seen all of the fear that's come with that. I mean, people were so afraid of the internet. People were so afraid of cell phones. People were so afraid of, microwaves. People were so afraid of all these things. But if you look back and think, people were like, Google's going to take over the world. I mean, it's those things where we always, as humans, we have those fears when it's something new. And I am not going to speculate on where AI is going to go. I have my hopes, and I hope that, it's always used for good and that everything that we do is positive. But I also know that there are negative things out there and some things can be manipulated. So I'm cautious of that. But also, I'm always also trying to stay excited because I think that we're in a time of such innovation that it's exciting, but also really overwhelming. And I can see how that's scary for some people,
Totally.
So, okay.
I didn't mean to I was not trying to mutter imprecations like a old fuddy duddy. I was
I was simply trying to broaden the scope of
I'll shut up now. Please continue.
this feels fun.
No, shut it. Listen, I really do enjoy engaging in these conversations. I get a lot of people who are like, "Oh, you like AI? You must, be evil and hate the world." And it's not a point at all. But I do try to make that point to people when they're like, "Oh, well, copyright and stuff." Well, yes, and I do feel like, and I feel really empathetic for like current artists, especially like the music making and like, Eminem style, all that stuff. But realistically speaking, all of that stuff is available. And if you had a couple of really smart people, they could just do it themselves. It's just that AI made the access and the information easier, just trying to
What's
look
interesting?
so in a couple of weeks we've actually got an AI lawyer
Coming on.
That we're gonna have a conversation with, and so we're gonna get into all of that stuff with her. We're gonna see what we can dig up from that perspective.
No, it's also really exciting, right? Like, so you're going to have those AI therapists, those AI lawyers, but
yes
also, when we look at it from like the therapy point of view, it's that therapist in your pocket or at your computer in your privacy,
Right.
So you can help those mental. Anyway, we can go on.
oh and
Talk about this all day.
To clarify, when I said we're having an AI lawyer coming in, I do not mean an artificial intelligence that is a lawyer. We have a human who is a lawyer who specializes in artificial intelligence, copyright stuff, and things like that. Now, I realized after it came out of my mouth, I said it wrong.
I'm so sorry. I thought you were having an AI lawyer and you were testing its boundaries.
It's past the bar. It's gonna get me out for murder charges. We're gonna do something. We're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Suzanne, there's a question from Jason
Sure.
in the audience. He wants to know, can you give instructions to insinuate bias of a topic?
Yes. So we're going to actually get into prompting, and that's coming up right next. So can we hold off on that question and see if it's
Yes.
still a valid question after we get to the prompting?
You got
We
it.
absolutely can.
Okay. So let's get into like prompting, like the basic prompting. Okay. So from a user point of view, there are very, very minimum basic things that you need to do to get a good prompt. And what I noticed after playing with the GPTs today, a lot of them really are, the instructions are just really good prompts. And that's basically what a GPT is, or all of these little apps that you're going to see. They're just really, really well-worded prompts. So I want to show everyone, all users, how easy prompting AI can be, or prompting large language models can be. So when we're looking at crafting the basic prompt, we want to look at three things. The first thing we want to do is we want to ask it to act as an expert. The reason we want to hone in on this is, remember, the large language models all have this vast, infinite amount of knowledge. I mean, I can't even imagine how much knowledge is in there. What we want to do is we want to take that large knowledge and kind of sink it down so that they're focused in one role or one area. So we're kind of focusing it, right? So we want to assign it a role. You want it to be an expert, whatever it is. I mean, it can be, it could be like act as a parent, act as a lawyer, act as a therapist, act as a professor, marketer, right? Author. So that's the role. The very first thing is to assign the role. Then very simply, you want to ask it what you want it to do. You want me to write an article, write a poem, write a short story, write a summary, whatever your task is, right? And then the last thing you want to do is, if you don't want it in just the normal format, you can ask it to give it to you in different formats. I very much like the table format, especially when I'm asking for a lot of information, because it'll automatically sort of organize it for me. But you can ask it in code. You can even ask it to respond to you in emojis, which is really fun. If you've never done that, you should play with it and do it sometime. So let's take a look at what that looks like, okay? I did pre-record this because I had a feeling I was going to get locked out of AI today, and I did. So for the purposes of this prompting, for the purposes of this display, we are using ChatGPT. However, all of these prompting rules are valid for any of the large language models, okay? All right, so what I started with is I asked it to, let me play this. Hold on a second for me. Okay. I asked it to act as a marketing expert and help me write. I was typing this. I was like thinking out loud when I wrote it. 5 social media attention grabbers for consulting services, for IT consulting services. Provide them to me in a bulleted list. Okay. So enter, sending that in. So I set the role, ask as an expert. Act as an expert. I asked it to do the thing, right? Do the task. Help me write 5 social media posts, attention grabbers for my IT consulting service, and then give it to me in bulleted points. So do you remember when I first gave you those best practices? Remember I told you about really practicing iteration. So if the AI model doesn't get it right the first time, you ask it again. So it gave me really great information. But if you notice, it did not give me the bullet points that I asked for. So I communicate with it like it is human. I say, thank you, but that is a numbered list. Can you change it to bullet points? And it responds to me, of course, of course I can. Here's the social media attention grabbers in bulleted format. So again, it's one of those things. If a person doesn't do it right the first time, sometimes AI messes up and you ask it to do it again, and it will give you what you wanted, what you initially wanted. So it's giving me what I want. Like it's a marketing expert. It's giving me those attention grabbers. It did a good job. I said good work and I thanked it. And actually, when you start doing that, you get responses back that feel human. It's like, you're welcome, and I wish you the best in your pursuit of IT consulting services. So I'm looking over, see if there's anything I want to change here. It looks pretty good. And yeah, so now let's try another prompt. I want it to act as a therapist and give me.
Oh, he's trying to steal my job.
Yeah, give me some ways to cope with burnout from work and provide this information in a table format. That's my favorite. It's my favorite when I'm collecting a lot of information. Yes.
This was a topic we were discussing late last year, right? During the discussion. Now, really quick, Suzanne, just in case for our audience, it says ChatGPT 4 up in the top corner.
Yes.
Now, if you go on ChatGPT, usually starts with 3.5. So is there a difference in the responses that you can get between 3.5?
No. So the difference between 3.5 and 4, there's a few differences. One is that 4 has access to DALL-E, the image generator. It has access to the web. It has, and then also ChatGPT 3.5, I think, is only updated to April 2022 at this point. So if you are trying to search something that happened, last month or early last year, you wouldn't get that information on the 3.5. So I am using 4 because I pay for it, but those would be the differences. You wouldn't be able to generate images through DALL-E. You wouldn't be able to do web browsing. And there's also some code interpretation there that's not available in 3.5. But the basics prompting and the things that I'm doing are available. You can do in 3.5 and any large language model free versions. Okay. You're welcome. So it gave me I'm going to rewind this just a little bit. It gave me everything I wanted in the table format, like I asked it to, right? It did a good job. So as we saw, it was building that table in front of me. I love to see it every time it does, because do you know how long it would take me to build an Excel sheet and like put everything in the columns and put everything in the rows, and it's auto sizing it for me. I love that. I am not an Excel fan, and I just love that I can copy and paste all of this stuff as needed, and then sort, color, all the different things. And then, so it tells it, it gives us that little bit of information, and I tell it, great job. And I ask, and I thank it again. I do that like just every single time I talk to it, because that's what I would do with a person. People think you're crazy, but it actually, I'm dealing with a system that was built on human thought and emotion, right? Okay, so that is the basic prompt. If we can remember, the very first thing was communicate with it like you would communicate with another human. And then the basics of prompting are going to be assign a role, ask the task, and if you want it in a certain format, ask for that, okay? That is the basic of prompting. Any questions before I go on? Because now we're going to talk about expanding on the prompt. So that's the very basic that you should do anytime you prompt if you want to get the best results. Now we're going to expand upon that. I'm going to take a sip of water.
I don't I think that kind of answered Jason's question about bias, but I'll let him answer if he is satisfied with that or not. I know that we're going to go into some more stuff too.
Yes, we are. So let's, if he has the question, we'll go through this and then see, because I think the bias is going to come in a little bit more here.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So that was the basic of prompting. That is the very basic. Anytime you go into to any of these large language models, don't just ask for the simple thing. First, tell it what role you want it to play, and then ask your task. And then if you want it in a different format. From there, we can expand upon the prompt. So if we want better prompt results, there are 3 additional things that we need to add to get a better output. So the first thing we want to do is add context. This can be things like, I'm a 40-year-old female and I'm looking for a diet and exercise plan that is not going to hurt my knees, kind of thing. You want to add that context, right? So instead of give me an exercise plan, you want to add that context, like take into account, right, the fact that I have these and these parameters, okay? Next, we want to use examples. So this is where it's going to come in. Like, I want you to write this short story in the style of Stephen King. Now, I will say that these large language models are getting really good. It is really a little bit harder to, with copywriting. We are getting blocked with certain things. I just had one earlier this morning. I was live and I was showing people how to do image generation. And I did like a Pixar style, then a Tim Burton style. And then I tried to go in and do the Addams Family, like that look of the Addams Family, because it was along the lines where we were going, and it stopped me for copyright. So they are getting pretty good at it. But you can get sort of that style, right? The Addams Family is very specific. It's not a style.
Did it say we can't do that because of copyright infringement? Or
it said due to restrictions and copyright implications, we are unable to process this request.
Oh, interesting.
So I hope that provides hope for other people. But yes, they are getting good. It's hard to catch it all, but yeah, so Pixar as a style is a little bit broader than maybe the Addams Family. The Addams Family is so specific, right?
Makes sense.
But you could say things like, I want it to be funny like Kevin Hart, or I want to, have these quotes like, how would Simon Sinek say it? That kind of thing, it won't maybe give you the exact way, but it will give you an idea. And again, going back to, everyone knows the kind of comedian Kevin Hart is. People, we've had for years, we've had people who do voice acting and who do mimicking and who are, you know what I mean? So it's not like as humans, we don't do it. So AI does it as well. And then, so that's context. Then you want to give it examples like act as this, or like this kind of example. I want you to give me a poem as if Shakespeare was going to say it, even though you're writing a poem about, dinosaurs that are flying in outer space in the future, kind of thing. And then this is the really, really important one. And it's really important for me because I work with business owners and entrepreneurs, is setting the tone. What sort of tone do you want the language to be in? And I think that that people forget a lot is you can ask it to speak to you in a human tone, or to give you the information in that human tone where it's less robotic. You can have it be professional, which is one that I use a lot. Ask it to give that sense of urgency. I actually use the word FOMO. It understands that because, you want to act fast before it sort of gets out of. But yeah, so funny, serious, energetic. You want to set the tone. So we had the basic, which was the role, the task, and the format. But now, in order to perfect upon or to build upon the prompt, and we want to really get the best results possible, let's add some context, some examples, and set the tone. So we're going to run through that quick example here. So we're going to go back to our initial prompts. And I will play this. Hold on. We're going to go back to our initial prompts that we had, and we're going to build upon those. Okay. Scrolling. Okay. So we have this one where we were acting as a marketing expert and help me write 5 social media attention grabbers for IT consulting services and provide them to me in a bulleted list, right? So let's expand upon this. So let's act as a social media marketing expert, right? We're adding that little bit of context. And then help me write 5 social media attention grabbers for IT consultant services. But I want to, so this is the example, but I want to let them fear missing out and that time is running out. Okay. And then, so I also, if you have spelling errors, it catches those. It's pretty good. You can spell things correctly and it will proceed without asking for the proper spelling. It's really, really good.
It knows how terrible of a speller I am.
Yeah, it knows how we are as humans. I have seen so many. I've been with other people demonstrating their prompting and the atrocious spelling that has occurred, and it flies through it like it's butter, like it's nothing. So you can see it actually the fear of missing out. It actually put it in parentheses FOMO, right? So this is a well-known strategy. So we're adding that FOMO to it, right? So it's giving me those 5 prompts that are pretty good. They're pretty attention grabbing, last chance for tech transformation. Hurry up, time is ticking. Transform your IT, transform your business, act fast, right? But that was that encouraging tone. But when we're talking about FOMO, let's change the tone a little bit more. And then what we want to do when we're doing FOMO is we want to change the tone to urgent. Let's use an urgent tone and let's see how that sort of changes the overall prompt as well. So we're running that through and all I did was, can you change the tone of this to be urgent? And now look, act now or miss out. The language, just the very little bit change in words really sets and changes the tone. And again, that's how we are as humans, right? Sometimes just a different word or putting that exclamation at the end changes the overall output or the way it sounds, right? So again, I tell it great. I say thank you because just the thing. And then look, it says, you're welcome. I'm glad you found this to be good. It's glad, So I do elicit human emotions with the way that I communicate with AI, which I know for some people may be really scary. But it's cool to me because I also remember that they are built on human human emotion. So let's do this therapist one. So we're going to act as a so remember this remember this prompt. So we're going to act as a therapist, but we're going to change this to let's act as a physical therapist. And we're really changing the context here, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Give me some ways to help. And we're changing this context to my team. So we're going to change it away from what, I need help with. Let's give me some ways to help my team. Let's add a little bit more here. Cope with burnout from work, but let's also understand that we want physical exercise here because you're a physical therapist, but they can only do these physical exercises in the office. Let's expand on that, right? And then use an encouraging tone. Yeah, sounds good. Okay. So acting as a physical therapist. Let's see. So again, that table format for me, I love the table format. I'm a huge fan of it, especially when I'm getting a lot of information because it very easily organizes it for me. So as I was reading this, I'm like doing these like shoulder blade squeezes, right? I spend a lot of time at my desk as well. The stair climbing, standing desk option, walking meetings. It's giving us all those different things that we can do in the office. And you know what's funny? People make money selling this. Like people pay people to come up with this, and you just were able to come up with it in 2 minutes. I love that. I love that about AI. And I love that we have the power of being able to, I don't need to go and consult a coach or a workout guide, or if I want to create my own a meal plan or workout plan, I have that available to me at the, if I want recipes. But anyway, it did a really good job here. It gave me the exercise. It told me how to do it, why I should do it, and how long I needed to do it. Right. So again, good work. But if we notice, these descriptions are not very encouraging. It didn't take on that encouraging tone that I asked it for. Now, it did encourage me at the end. See, encourage your team to take short breaks for these. It had that encouraging tone at the end. So I'm practicing iteration. I'm telling it that I didn't like something it did, and I'm asking it to fix it. And now look at the encouragement. Boost your energy with some leg raises. It's an easy, quick way to feel more invigorated. Stretch your way to relaxation. This is something that's motivating. And if I was going to give something like this out to my team and be like, let's try these things, this language is much more inviting and feels much more like, hey, let's do this together and in a way to work together, versus the other one, which is very basic and not very inspiring, right? So each of those exercises were designed to, everything is really, really good here. So as we expanded upon that prompt, we got much better results. It's that encouraging. It's really like all those things, but in more of an encouraging way. So if I want my team to practice these things, I'm like, hey, let's go. Remember, it's a healthy way, and it's we can put peace, with it. So I said, good work. I used the exclamation because it really was good work. I was so happy with what it did for me, and that I told it was a huge improvement. And then it's glad to hear that we found revised. Wishing you and your team a healthy and vibrant work environment. Now, if you have not been eliciting the emotions from AI that I have displayed with you today, it's because you have not been communicating with AI like you would a human. Okay, so I do have one problem though. Some of my team members are unable to stand during the day. So now I'm adding some boundaries, right? Can you recreate the list with only options for those who are unable to stand up? So it does very, very quickly. It's understanding what I wanted it to do. You cannot do any of these exercises while standing, and it's giving them to me very succinctly. And if you noticed from the previous list, there were a lot of exercises where you had to get up and move. So initially I thought I was only going, part of me, I kind of knew there was that expectation that maybe I would only get 3 or 4, but it actually generated brand new exercises for me, an additional 6 exercises for us to do based on the new limitation or the new boundary. See what I mean? Mm-hmm. So all of these now are things that you can do while seated. we had 10 before, a lot of them not seated exercises that you could do in the office. But now I set that boundary, but it didn't just give me what I asked for, it expanded upon, because it is a predictive language model. It's trained to think of what I'm going to want next, or the output that I'm going to want next. Okay. So I told it great work, good job. And it said, thank you. So, all right. So any questions on that? I do want to go quickly, just basics of image prompting, but it is not going to be as in-depth. Any questions?
I think we're good.
Okay. All right. So image prompting. So I get this a lot. And remember, I am not a graphic designer. So, I don't know what, looks good. I mean, you could tell my PowerPoints, they're not all like, level and stuff. I'm not a graphic designer, but I do understand how to prompt for the images that I'm looking for. And I would say now I use the image generation every day. I didn't before, but these image generators are their capabilities are changing constantly, always improving. Every day I get more and more surprised with the images that are being exported from all of these AI generators. Okay. So the basic ones are up here, the most common ones, and there are other ones for sure, but the most common ones and the biggest ones are going to be DALL-E 3, which is powered by ChatGPT, Midjourney, Adobe Firefly, Stable Diffusion, Leonardo.ai, and Generative AI by Getty Images. There are others, I know, but those are the most used ones. And then we do that. We generate images for fun. I have ChatGPT and DALL-E on my phone, and I replace all of my memes that I would send to my circle of friends or my group of friends. It's always being replaced now with AI images, and especially on the iPhone, because you can grab that and it becomes a sticker, and you can, it's so fun. I get so excited. If y'all cannot tell how excited I am every time I talk about AI, I'm just super excited about it. Okay. Prompting for AI images. For AI imaging, really quickly, there are 5 things you need to keep in mind when you are prompting for AI imaging. Okay. I'm going to go through this kind of quickly, but the medium. So that's basically the material that an artist uses for whatever they're going to do, the medium, whether it's a photograph. I'll get through the examples on the next slide. So we have style and composition. That really just applies to the arrangement or the style that you're going to be using. Graffiti is a style. The camera angle. This is a thing that took me down a whole rabbit hole because I never thought about that. But if you're creating this image, what is the view? What is the point of view you want to have? Do you want to look at it from far away? Do you want up close? So that is set by inputting a camera angle. And then the scene. Most people are pretty good at setting the scene. It's part of what we've just been taught as humans. And then modulate. Modulate is my most favorite one, where it is you take what you have and you completely change it so it morphs into a whole different thing. So there's complex modulations, and we're going to get to that on the next slide. So some of the very basic examples, and there are so many, way too many to count, but this is about 20. So the most common ones is like photographs, sculpture, digital art, pastel, oils, graffiti, stop motion, etching, sand art, glass art. And then you have style and composition, Baroque, Gothic, pop art, Romanticism, Art Nouveau, Cubism, right? These are all just different styles and compositions. Then there's the camera angles, which I had no idea. I found out like maybe yesterday what a worm's eye view is. And that's like, if you can imagine, a worm's eye view is like the underside of a dandelion.
So this is the reason why I know what that is. I'm actually taking a digital photography course right now, and I saw, worm's eye. I even know how to take that shot.
Do you know what a crane job shot is? Because I don't know that one. I didn't ask AI what that one was.
A crane
job shot? I'm thinking it's something like from a crane, like if you were hanging from a crane, but I don't know.
I don't know that word specifically. There's a crane shot, but I don't know what a crane job shot is. Let me find out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's cool. It's cool though. It's like, just by learning how to properly prompt for imaging, I've learned all these things about art that I never would have ever learned, you know? It's pretty cool. And then the scene, obviously the scene, we all play with different scenery, but modulate means like, it's also like a different scene, but a whole different aesthetic. So I can say New York downtown, but then if I say New York downtown in the roaring 20s, it's a little bit different than saying 1920s versus the roaring 20s, right? Or the Great Depression. There's just a whole idea of how that is. You know, the early 2000s, the tech boom, the rise of the social media age, ancient Egypt, ancient Rome. Like we can imagine what the scene looks like in our mind, you know. So that's what we're going to do when we're going to talk about modulate. That's what that looks like. So let me run through just a progression of some images that I was able to do. Now, for the purposes of this, I used DALL-E 3, which is powered by ChatGPT. So the first thing I asked it to do was just generate a photograph style of a beautiful young woman. It's pretty good. You know, it's pretty good. I didn't ask for any details. My prompt was literally generate a photograph of photograph style of a beautiful young woman, a photograph of a beautiful young woman. Then I was like, okay, I need to add to this. So I want to add some color. So I asked it to add blue to her clothing and to create a cityscape modern background with a blue hue kind of thing. Because I wanted some color. Because I want to see where it's going to go from here. So the next thing I asked you to do was to create a watercolor painting. And I don't know how well you can see the details, but the brush strokes in this is absolutely amazing. I fell in love with it. But if you see what happened, it didn't change anything except for the medium. It still kept that modern architecture in the background. It still kept that blue hue. So it kept all the other stuff. I just changed the medium. Then I was like, okay, let's change the medium again. Let's do a pencil drawing. I just asked, let's change this to a pencil drawing. It still kept those blue hues. It still kept the architecture in the back, that blue background, and even the pencils are blue.
The prompt was literally just, let's change it to a pencil drawing.
Yes.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
So we're building upon it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was like, all right, let's play with the style. So we did the different mediums. Let's play with the style. And I was like, what's a very iconic style? So that's the Pixar. So I came up, you know, again, all the blues, the same beautiful woman, that background. All I did now was change the style. Let's change this to Pixar style. Very simple. And then I was like, oh, let's do like 1920s pinup style, right? Like you got the hair, but again, 1920s still has that architectural, but her clothes have kind of changed a little bit, right? And then I was like, what would be fun next that I could show? And then I was like, what about a comic book? So then again, we still have that blue. We still have that woman. We have those blue hues. We have that modern architecture. And I don't know how well you can see it, but it has that pixelated sort of comic book look in it. And then I was like, all right, let's change it. Let's really change this to a different style. Let's show them like what can be done. And so I asked it to change the style into a drastically different style, which is the Tim Burton style. But I also want to change the color scheme a little bit. So let's go Tim Burton style and change it from blues to like different dark shades of gray. And this is what I was able to generate, which is super cool. But if you notice, look at the background. It's Tim Burton style, but still that modern city background. It's still like her clothes are still like going off of like what we've built from like the 1920s onto the comic book. Like it still has that feel, but very different style, right? That Tim Burton Gothic, right? So then at that point, I was like, all right, let's just go all in. Let's just modulate this whole thing. By modulating, what I did is I was like, let's set this in the future and make it cyberpunk, right? Just like out there, like how could it be different? And I was able to generate this image. So you still have that clothing. Cool. You have those cars, and look at the people in the background. It's absolutely, sorry, I have two monitors if you see me looking, but the people in the background have that like old feel style. The cars have it, but then the city looks futuristic. And then we have the woman with her hair that's very like, you know, and then the robot cybertronic arms, all that stuff. So it really just changed the entire piece of art, right? And this is what we're able to sort of do. And you know what's really cool to me in all of that is that that's all my work. yes, AI generated it, but it couldn't have generated it without my input, without my prompting. Do you know what I mean? So that's what's exciting. And that's why I love prompting with AI. Okay, now I am done. You can take my screen sharing, or I can take my screen sharing off. I can leave this up if you want. I have the
There we
I
go.
do have the ChatGPT worksheet if people are interested in that. But yeah, that's where we are with prompting. I hope everyone was able to get something. And if we take nothing else away, to always just try to communicate it as if it is another human that you're communicating with.
I love every episode that we have where I immediately have like a ton of things to go play with. So I'm going to be making a lot of pictures, not tonight, tomorrow. It's late right now, but I'm definitely going to be diving into all the different options. When you're given an embarrassment of riches, when you have so many options, you become paralyzed. You're like, well, what, you can make anything. Well, what can I make? I don't know. I'll make a teddy bear made out of Twinkies or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you start
Yeah.
coming up with ridiculous stuff. But when you actually like can think about like all of the different layers and levels, and okay, well now I'm going to make a teddy bear made out of Twinkies, but Baroque style with
Yes.
Botticelli angels in the corner with, you know,
Yeah.
that's this will be super fun.
Yeah, so it's so funny. My daughter, she's 23. She has absolute no interest in AI. And today she saw me. I was live on TikTok and I was demonstrating some image generation. And she just joined my live. She has no interest whatsoever. But she saw that I was creating images, and she was like, "I didn't know you could do that." And so I started generating images of her and her boyfriend and their dog, and I did it in different styles. And that's how I ran into the whole Addams Family thing, because she's into goth and horror and stuff. That's her thing. And she was just absolutely mesmerized. Now that's all she wants to do. So sometimes it's just that little bit of like interest that
Interesting.
like, I didn't know we could do this. I didn't know I could get that from it. And that's the excitement. And sometimes that light bulb turns on for somebody. I mean, sometimes it really is just sitting down and having people log into and just start communicating with the large
That's so
language
funny
models.
because yesterday when we were talking about it, you said my daughter absolutely has zero interest in AI, and like today, all of a sudden, she's playing with the image stuff now. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It is. I mean, it's probably because I was on TikTok and she just, she saw me and she's like, oh, well, like she came in at the right time. But yeah, no, I think I told you this story when I told her that I wrote the book about AI. She was like, why?
Oh, your AI stuff, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, you and your AI stuff. Nobody cares, Mom. Well, you don't care. So no, but it's fun, and it happens almost all the time where you're able to. I have a client who's 68, lives off the grid, but is just absolutely amazing and so excited about just the amazing things that AI can do. And I love it. I love it. I love to see people get excited about it. I get excited about it.
Awesome. Yeah. No, this is really good stuff. Roger, did you have any additional questions? I don't want to bogart the mic.
No, you're not that bad. I would say, first of all, this is really great. Thank you so much. I'm actually over on the other side here trying some of those tips that you provided. So, to reiterate Chris's comments, there's so much out there, especially when it comes to prompt engineering and, how to do it right and whatnot. And this is a really, really good, some really good examples. Now, I'm curious though, from your perspective, is this something that somebody could make a career out of, or is this something that you would see, companies starting to look at other individuals and say, you know what, I really want somebody who can come in and help to provide this type of service?
So I'll tell you, I'm a prompt engineer, and I'm probably, there are not many of us, but there's not too many people hiring. I think what's happening is that people are very quickly learning how to prompt correctly. So people are hiring, companies are hiring for the infrastructure and kind of just training people along the way. What I mostly do is things like this, where I'm teaching a group of people very collectively, because once I give you the information and teach you how to do it, it is very much it is very easy for you to learn how to communicate with it well. I think where we run into problems for this field, not to say that it's not needed. It is very important to be a prompt engineer. It is very important as things change to understand how to communicate with AI, right? But I think we also need to really focus on ensuring that we keeping our company and our information and our client information really, really protected. And I think that the companies are really doing that with like enterprise accounts and stuff. So I think another piece of the training is really just training our team members, our staffs, and really being careful with what we're putting out there, especially if on the back end, if you're using AI in a workplace that's not secured and you're just doing like a free account and you're putting in information that is company proprietary information, or if you have client information and you're trying to run it through, please remember, unless you go and physically turn it off in your free accounts, every single thing that you communicate to AI, it is learning and processing.
Good points.
Don't put your credit card numbers in there. Got it.
It's more like, you're working on this super secret thing that your company's trying to do. Don't put that there. Or, and the big thing, this is the real big thing, your client's information. We as companies deal with very sensitive information, and we want to just really, really be careful when it comes to AI to be, and again, as I said, many companies are getting really good at it. It's if you're a smaller company, or if you're a company who's just sort of starting out with these things, reach out to somebody who knows how to do it, at least to get you started. I'm more of the call me in, I'll help you, I'll train you, I'll show you all how to do it for yourselves kind of thing. Once you teach the right things, it's easy to reproduce. But if you're confused and you're not sure how to protect it, how to go about how to use it in your business, then you want to call us in to help with that. Us, as well as the tech side, right? So yes, there's career, we're growing, changing, and because AI and technology is changing, we're always going to be needed. And I mean, we as a people, and those of us who are embracing change and embracing, we just have to ride the wave and be there when people who are having a harder time catching up need our help. So.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Suzanne, thank you so much for coming on. Super appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. I know that, this is a technical format,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing it when you say things like looking at it from the non-technical side, sometimes we forget that there is a non-technical side. So having visibility into that is very appreciated amongst us, because we think of this as ones and zeros, and how do we how do we make sure that this repo doesn't get exposed versus this repo. But it's weird for like really, really hardcore technical people to just have a human conversation, because we're like,
right.
Top 10 4-wheel drive answer.
Exactly.
And we got so good at Google, and now that Google is just complete crap, we need to figure out a better way to parse information and digest it. And this is a really good medium for it. And so a lot of us are trying to figure out how to get as good with this as we used to be with Google. We used to call it having Google foo. Now we need ChatGPT foo. So this is great.
Yeah. And it's one of those things. It's, as humans, we oftentimes struggle to communicate with one another. So it is going to be a struggle learning to communicate with AI when it's based on humanity. And
Right.
I think that all of us at some point can realize that we have trouble communicating with one another. So it's okay. It's okay. And if you make a mistake, you just go again. If we just always remember the basics of prompting and the basics of how to elicit the best information, we will be fine. And I'm not the person that's going to say, you must tell it thank you and please, but I truly believe it makes a difference.
At least for when in the future, when our AI overlords take over, you'll be the polite one, and
they're not coming after me.
You'll get extra hamster pellets.
Right. Exactly. No, but no, I'm super excited. I think we're on the cusp of something huge. I mean, yeah, I'm excited. I'm riding the wave until we can't anymore. Same golden rules apply. Exactly.
Nice.
So this was
All right.
fun.
Yes, it absolutely was. There's going to be a lot more AI content on the channel. So viewers, stay tuned. Next week, same bat time, same bat channel. What are we doing next week, Roger? What's on the schedule?
I have not looked at the schedule. I'm sorry.
Oh, AI. It's AWS Code Catalyst Q and the AI takeover of developer tools with AWS hero Johannes Koch. So we will be
Sounds like a party.
Suzanne, come on.
Sorry. I mean, it sounds like the place I want to be. Definitely.
You're going to be tuned in. I know you're going to be watching it.
I am
You're
going to be
you're going to
tuned
see
in.
it from the nerd side of AI now.
And then as you're speaking, I'm going to be like typing it in and be like, translate to this, teach this to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
Explain this to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
Yeah,
Exactly.
No, it's fantastic. Actually, if you're going to have it on YouTube, I'll just transcribe it, throw it in after, and then get the whole explanation.
Perfect. Digest this for me.
Yes.
AI.
Exactly.
Cool. All right, folks. Well, have a wonderful evening, and we will see you again here next week. Have a good night, y'all.
Thank you.
Good night.